Let's think about the difference between Walmart and Target or Chick-fil-A and McDonald's. Right off the bat, you created some sort of bias on those companies. When you thought Walmart, maybe you thought a cheaper version of Target. When you thought Target, maybe you thought a nicer, more elegant style of Walmart with better products. When you thought about Chick-fil-A, maybe you thought about the "my pleasure" quote that they always say. You thought about how the line is always moving, how it's fast, how there's 2 lanes to get in and both of them are always open. And when you thought about McDonald's, maybe you thought about slow service, about the fact that the ice cream machine never happens to work, and maybe less quality type of food, right? So a lot of that falls under brand image, but I want to dive deeper into that and really explain how the culture of people who work in those types of businesses can really affect the performance, and how you as a leader or a manager can leverage that culture to motivate and inspire the team to perform better. Now let's break it down even further, because even in those companies I mentioned, you can dive in deeper and separate culture within that same business. You may have the Chick-fil-A frontline workers who work with the customers, and then you may have the logistics side where they deal with the transportation of the goods to the company. They make sure that the right amount of quantities are ordered and that it's the correct amount of food going to that specific department. Then you have the HR department where maybe they're the ones doing the interviews, they're the ones screening and doing the job postings online, and they're the ones that do the background checks and all that stuff. So in that scenario, we have three different types of departments within Chick-fil-A, right? So you have the frontline workers who work there at the restaurant. That's one. And you have the HR department, and then maybe you have the logistics department, right? So you already have three. Those three individual ones, even though they're part of the same entity, will have different type of culture because they're probably in different cities. But not only that, they're also in different environments, mentally, where they're in different departments, so they deal with different things, and the culture that is being built within that is correlated to the type of work that they do. Somebody in logistics may not have the same type of customer service or customer experience that somebody that actually works on the front lines does, like the general manager there at the facility, because they deal with customers at a different level more often and in a different type of interaction than somebody through email or trying to get customers or dealing with shipping and stuff like that. And you can break that down even further based on location as well. So you may have HR departments that are physically located maybe in Texas who are going to differ quite a lot from those that are located in California. So why exactly is this important? Well, if you're a leader that's coming in to a scenario where you're going to take over the position of a manager and you have to lead a team, the type of culture that you're going to interact is very important, because it's going to show you the type of people that you work with, the type of mentalities that you have to inspire or change or really kind of focus on, so that you can provide better scenarios and you can give them a better outcome as a mentor. Understanding the culture also provides a way for you to look at the weaknesses that are happening in that department. By weaknesses, I mean where employees are falling behind. Is it because there is this idea that you don't have to work hard, or is there a person who serves as almost a barrier for other people to really develop their skills? Is there somebody who's there right now who's limiting their abilities to perform better by, being rude to them, being extremely micromanaging everything that they do? Or is there already a type of culture that negatively formed where they kind of dropped the ball? Nobody's ever gotten after them. They know that if they just keep slacking, it's going to be okay. And that type of culture is what you're going to walk into. And you need to evaluate if that culture stemmed from an internal, meaning that there at that location, it kind of grew like a fungus. It just grew and people have that type of mentality and that's how it's always been. Or if it's something that is kind of coming from higher up outside of that location that is really affecting their opinion as to how hard or what type of way they have to work. And changing a team's culture is extremely hard. It's almost like changing their political party, right? Like you have to reframe and have them rethink of everything into a new way because the previous way wasn't working. Now, earlier I mentioned about the difference between Chick-fil-A and McDonald's. And the reason why I mentioned that is because that can also serve as a way to motivate employees. If you already have an image of the company established, if it's a big company, if it's somebody that's you're starting off and your team is small, well then you can create that image yourself and you can inspire the team like that. But let's say that it is like a Chick-fil-A, right? And your team doesn't work that well. You get there and you realize that they don't say my pleasure. They're not as nice to the customers as you would like. Well, then that's when you bring them in and you implement that base company culture, right? That base brand image. And you say, hey, here at Chick-fil-A, we are not like McDonald's. We don't slack off. We don't act rude to the customers. We don't delay food. If something late happens, we give them a free cookie because we want to apologize for that lateness. If we mess up the order, we give them a free cookie as well because it was our fault, and we give them a discount the next time they come or whatever, right? But the point is that the culture that you're establishing is based on the brand image, the culture of the entire company, okay? In order for you to create a culture within a culture within a culture there at your own facility, you need to have them understand the baseline, which is the general culture. Now let's turn this around and say that maybe you worked at McDonald's instead. And I don't want to dog on people who are, general managers or somebody pretty high up in McDonald's. That's not the goal here. But it's the truth, because that's just the brand image. And I can tell you from experience that the few times that I go to McDonald's, it's always the same story. It's really bad service and it feels like nobody even cares. So let's say instead you start at McDonald's and you're the manager there. How would you really inspire them if it feels like the brand image doesn't help? Well, you can leverage the culture the opposite way, and you can say, hey, do you really want to let Chick-fil-A beat you again? Do you really want Chick-fil-A, who in my city, they're right next door to McDonald's, you want to let your neighbors have more customers, have better service? Why do you think that they have, faster service than we do? The employees get paid roughly the same, as far as I know. They get paid roughly the same. So what is the difference? Is it because, we just don't care here? You need to put the fact that there is a competitor that is doing things better than them, and have them shift that mentality from thinking that it's okay because they're not Chick-fil-A, that they have the right to act that way. You cannot let that happen, right? You want to bridge that mentality and say, we're not Chick-fil-A, but that doesn't give us the right to not perform at the same standard, because those employees are performing in that standard. So we have to perform even better because we have a negative bias attached to the company already. Now, it's not always going to be perfect. You're not going to be able to motivate every single employee. Some people are still not going to care. But you as a leader, you need to pinpoint those people whose culture is unable to really adapt to the new type of environment that you're trying to place the employees in. And that's very important, because you don't want to have stragglers who are really pushing back the ability to grow into better managers or into a better facility because of the fact that they can't change that mentality. And maybe they're going to say, McDonald's has always been McDonald's and nothing's going to change. Well, you can't have that, because if you're trying to implement a better working culture, you need to start with a team that is really willing to change and willing to put in the work needed to get to that Chick-fil-A status in this sense, right? And the idea of bridging mindset is really this, right? To bridge two ends of the spectrum together, right? You want to be in the middle. I've mentioned this multiple times, but you want to be in the middle of the bridge, where in one you have poor customer service, where think of McDonald's, where poor McDonald's, I'm like bashing them, but think of, the bad customer service. You wait for over 30 minutes for your food on a fast food lane. It gets here and then it's wrong and they don't do anything. They just kind of give you the new one, and you just feel like they didn't even care about the fact that they wasted 30 minutes of your life. And you have that on one end. And then on the other hand, you have a complete over excess, not necessarily Chick-fil-A, but an excess of too much kindness, where every little thing gets rewarded back to the customer, even if it's not something that's major. You can have a thing as too much kindness and too much giving, okay? Because you also don't want to be seen as, Chick-fil-A times 100, where the customer can never, ever, 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 ever be wrong, and people start taking advantage of the system. And at some point, it starts costing you money. You don't want that either. You want to be in the happy spectrum, right in the middle. And to me, I think Chick-fil-A is right in the middle, because it's a fast food company, but at least when I have that conversation anecdotally with other people, it always feels like Chick-fil-A is a step above. It's more premium than McDonald's, and a lot of people see it that way. And honestly, their sales and the amount of revenue and GP that they have shows that they are, that people want Chick-fil-A, even though it only serves chicken. Think about that. They focus entirely on one aspect. They're closed on Sundays, and percentage-wise, they do far better than McDonald's. So as a leader that comes into a culture that isn't necessarily benefiting the company, you need to understand the strengths and the weaknesses. Because even if you walk into a culture where everybody thinks the customer is wrong and they don't care about anything, there's going to be some strong suits that those employees have. Maybe it's that they're innovative. Maybe it's that they're hard workers if they put their mind into it. Maybe it's just that they needed guidance and they didn't have that guidance, and now you come in and you're able to guide them to success. You need to change people's minds, and you need to delegate people and organize them based on their skills into a position that they can benefit from. Because maybe you have somebody who's really shy as a general manager and they're just not cutting it. And you don't have to necessarily strip them from that position, but maybe you can put somebody else as an assistant who's a lot more firm, and maybe they don't have the experience of making the right decisions, and they can really delegate while that other manager can convey their opinions, and they get a little bit of strengths from each other, right? Maybe the shy person becomes a little bit firmer, and maybe the guy who's too firm or the girl who's too firm gets a little bit more experience on making the right decisions. And I've been hitting McDonald's a lot, but I think this falls in line with Target and Walmart as well, because it's almost the same thing where Target has a lot of people who feel that it's more premium, who feel that it's a better product. When you go in, you go shopping and you buy higher quality items than if you were to go to Walmart. When you go to Walmart, you say, well, I want to get the brand value. I want to get something that's cheaper. I want to get, something that is going to fit what I need right now, even though I know I'm not expecting much of it but I'm not expecting as high as quality as if I were to go somewhere else or maybe buy it online from a premium company. It is always set as a company that you just go in and out. Even in my city, where I'm from Texas and we have H-E-B, I still consider H-E-B to be, the premium for food. And I dread going to Walmart and buying absolutely any type of food. It's just doesn't feel right to me. And when I go to Walmart, I always feel like there's stuff that's dirty. There's not as much organization. It's a lot of stuff that just kind of gets thrown in different places, never gets cleaned up. And the employees always feel like they're running around. Whereas when I go to Target, it feels cleaner. Even the way the lights are, they're just so much brighter that it helps you visually find what you're looking for. Now, it is kind of unfair because Walmart has a lot more departments. They have food, which Target doesn't have. They have a very small section for food, nothing like Walmart. But my point is that Target can really focus. Again, Target and Chick-fil-A, right? McDonald's and Walmart are offering all these things. Target and Chick-fil-A say, no, we're only going to offer these types of things. And it feels more luxurious, even though it honestly probably isn't that much. But to the extent where, think about the brand image and the culture that Target has established, right? They've established themselves as a brand that women really enjoy going to, right? You don't hear a lot of women say, oh, I'm going to go shopping at Walmart. Oh, Walmart has the cutest little things. Walmart has this, Walmart has that. No, it's always Target. It's Target has these new Stanleys and I'm going to fight somebody for it. Target has these cute little earrings. Target has these shirts. There's a new brand of shirts that they're releasing in Target and whatever it is. And that type of culture affects the way the employees perform and the way the employees feel about their work environment. You're a manager at Walmart or McDonald's and you're trying to find a way to really improve the work environment. What is something you could do, right? Aside from going in there and changing people's mind and maybe being that mentor for them and that person who they start seeing as a good leader and they start emulating you, what else could you possibly do? Well, if it comes to it where you have to terminate employees because they're unable to properly perform to the standards that you need them to perform, you can replace that employee with somebody that has experience in another company and they can bring in a different type of culture. Now, a lot of times that culture kind of has to match, not obviously to a T, but you also don't want to hire somebody who's way off, right? You want to match that culture almost, that the company they work for is similar in style. But This becomes a lot harder, obviously, when it's somebody that is getting paid minimum wage and they're a starting employee, because the type of employee you're going to hire at that point is going to be somebody who's not very versed. Whereas if you were in a company that maybe you're hiring for a higher position, then that different type of culture could really be beneficial, because at a higher level, that different culture will transcend down to the employees because of the leadership style. So let's say that you, coming into this new position, you come from another company, then your different type of culture will flow into these employees and you can change them. But if you have the opportunity to hire from below, maybe a supervisor or something, and you grab somebody from another company, you can actually benefit a lot from that different type of culture that they bring in, because they will start implementing changes and different mentalities that were not present at that time, because the culture in these examples where it's Walmart and McDonald's have been set for so long that having somebody from the outside that comes maybe from Chick-fil-A, that comes maybe from Target, from Best Buy, from H-E-B, from Kmart, I don't know, wherever, that different type of experience, even though it's almost the same type of, departments, that different type of experience and different type of culture in another company being put into this position can be very beneficial, because they have different experiences. They have different examples to give the employees. They have different hurdles that they went through that they fixed themselves that they can implement in these scenarios. Whereas if you had somebody that you promoted from within, all they know is that position. If you have somebody who's a cashier that you promote to a supervisor, all they know is the culture at that point. And if it's already failing, what makes you think that being promoted or promoting somebody from there to a higher position is going to fix it if it was not fixed before? You, in my recommendation, I mean, this is going to vary a lot, right? But in this example, it would be more beneficial to bring in somebody from outside, because the culture wasn't working for the company. The bottom line was probably, shot at that specific location, and you need somebody with other experiences from other companies that can really bring in and have a new lens and change the culture into something better. Culture is a tool, okay? It's a way for you to leverage the changing of a company's ideas. If you see that an employee of yours is talking bad to a customer, what would you do? You would go in and you would correct it, right? You would show them, not necessarily correct them on the spot, but you would show them how to properly do it. Like, oh, sorry, yes, Josh, let me take it from here. Hi, how could I help you, ma'am, sir? Yes, blah, blah, blah. You fix it, and you have them there. They visually see, and you can say, look, your method of trying to solve this was not culturally fit. Did you see what I did? I want you to emulate my way of resolving this, because that is the culture that I want to establish. You don't have to explain to them the whole culture thing, right? But you can just tell them that that's something that you want them to follow, and already the mindset changes, the culture starts changing, and you get a more positive group where people start understanding how to act and how to react in different scenarios. And earlier I mentioned about the whole culture of the company, right? Well, you want to make sure that your local culture aligns very well with the culture from the company, the goal of the company, the brand image. You don't want to create cultures locally that are misaligned with the mission statement of the company, okay? So if you own a business, create a mission statement, look at what your goal is, and make sure that your departments, if you have them, or your employees have the culture that aligns to your future goal or the goal of the company. And if you do have employees where you're the business owner, then it's great, because you can form them into the culture that you want by leading through example. If you work for a W-2 company where it's extremely large and you have different departments, well, leverage the experiences of the people who you have under you and create the culture based on the scenarios that you guys interact with every day. Maybe it's customer service, maybe it's sales, maybe it's orders, or whatever it is. But by doing this, you create the culture that is beneficial to the company and to you locally.